Well, welcome back to the show. As you know, I've been around for a couple years, but we want to introduce someone new. Bradley, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's great to be here. I've known you guys here and everybody, the team at More Flavor for years, but it's nice to be officially part of the family.
Cheers, brother.
It means a lot to me. For me, this is a dream come true. So my first beer that I wanted to make for the channel was our Cream Ale Kit. This is a style that I've never had commercially. I've never brewed it. I believe it's like an East Coast thing. It's bigger there.
Oh, for sure. I'm a Genesee Cream Ale is like a childhood, well, not too young of a childhood, but a childhood favorite.
So for me, it's brand new style, and I figured might as well take advantage and brew that. It's one of our top selling kits on the website. It's an awesome kit, really easy to put together, really concise instructions, as well as the amount of ingredients in this. It's really simple and approachable. And that actually, it kind of is the beer itself. I would call it simple and approachable.
And that's the purpose of this beer. This is not a high hop beer. This is not a beer focused on a certain malt that's going to jump out at you. Unless you're really into corn, this isn't going to be the beer that gets you excited. But I got to say, I think it's just simple, clean. On a hot summer day, I'd be more than happy to have more than one. Otherwise, I'd probably have one and I'd be done.
So guys, I brewed this one on my BrewTools B80 Pro. And this is a system that I've used for literally 5 years. It's my go-to system, my favorite one to brew on, and I have all of the accessories and all the goodies. I know, Chris, you guys have messed with the B40, its little brother.
Yeah, and I gotta say, they've seen me brew on pretty much every all-in-one brew house we have, except for that one, because Vito and I had some problems, really. That's a brew house that I think once you've used it a few times, it is awesome. The problem is you can't just go in and think, I'm just gonna whip something out, and I've never used this before, and I'm just gonna figure it out on the fly. It is not a figure it out on the fly kind of brew system.
This is not a simple all-in-one. This system is one that you can take from extremely bare bones to like mine, fully crazy, with every option. And some options you don't need, but you have just because you can.
Well, and what we love about it is one of the things you're going to be helping us do is brew our recipes, brew different beers, test new recipes as we do them. And as we've all brewed these over the years, most of the time it's been like home brewers, where it's been like, yeah, I was shooting for 152, I got a 150 mash. I was shooting for this, I got this. I have a feeling with your experience and the quality of how that thing is put together. I mean, it is more complicated than most microbreweries.
Yes.
But it has that ability to make that repeatable batch. And so I'm excited to have someone with a background in using it and history with using it, because I think you will be able to replicate things so much better than the average home brewer would.
Absolutely. So Chris, the kit I ordered the malt uncrushed. I do prefer to crush my own malt. I'm very particular about it. If you want to have us crush it for you as a service, more power to you, and it's an awesome service. You don't have to have an expensive grain mill right off the bat and deal with the gap adjustment and inconsistencies if you're not used to milling your own malt. It's a really good option.
I'm a big fan of, if you have a mill, do it yourself. You're never going to beat the freshness.
Yeah.
And you get to control exactly the grist size so that it matches whatever your false bottom is.
So speaking of full control, I built up my water profile from RO water. I chose a nice soft profile that would kind of hopefully let the malt shine a little bit and control the hops. And this one, the hops, like you said, it's pretty young. The hops come out to me relatively bold, but I think the water profile is pretty on point, and it's a really easy way to step up your brewing. It's just to start from a clean base, RO or distilled, and then build up from there.
RO is my favorite way, and the thing I love about it the most is I'm here in the Bay Area, and our water source may change twice during the year. And it is different water. My kids notice the difference. My wife notices the difference. It is literally that different. And so when you strip it all the way down with a reverse osmosis filter, and it's so easy to use, and then you just build it back up. And if you do that, if you get in that habit, you control probably the thing that makes 97% of your
Biggest
beer
difference.
is
Absolutely.
the water. And is that going to make massive changes if you don't know how to do fermentation yet? No. But if you do, that's the next level in.
All right, Chris, so after that, I started with my strike water. I preheated it a little bit more than my initial mash temp, 152. I think I did it in at 158. It came up to temperature so fast. With the 6 kilowatts my B80 Pro has, heating water is no issue for me.
That's awesome.
So Then I dote it in as normal. And with my all-in-one system, and I've even found it to be good on the other smaller systems, especially on my Brewzilla, I like to do a mash rest where I let it sit for 10 minutes and just kind of with no recirculation, let it do its thing. And I find that this helps me kind of set the grain bed and get a more consistent mash and then ultimately sparge.
I think that's great because when you think about your size to mass ratio and you're moving that liquid around constantly, it's really hard for anything to take off. And those enzymes want that perfect hydration and temperature level. And if you're pumping the whole time, it's hard to think you might accidentally be losing out on something. So I think doing that 10 minutes is a very smart thing. And if you do it every time, it's just the same thing every time.
So I let it mash for 40 minutes. I did a standard mash out at 168, held it there for 10 minutes. Then I lifted the malt pipe with the BrewTools Troll, which is the brewing cart with the crane on it. So it's a one-man operation. Even if you have a small grain bill or you're maxed out with 45 pounds in it, super easy to lift. I let that drain for a moment. I hooked up to my Brewzilla 65 liter that I use for my hot liquor tank in this instance. And I ran that through the BrewTools recirculation or sparging manifold and let it sparge out, really simple sparge, nice and easy.
About how long?
The sparge probably, honestly, could have been 10 minutes, could have been less.
Yeah.
I do take my time sparging. And keep in mind, when I was doing this, I actually fermented this in the BrewTools Mini Uni Plus, the 30 liters. So while we're doing that, I hooked up my CIP and I let that spin and got the unitank fermenter ready to brew this beer.
Those are good tips just in like shortening your brew day. Work while you're not working.
Take advantage of that extra time if you have it. And then we moved right into the boil. Now, I use a steam condenser. I think they're awesome. It allows you to actually boil an electric system with less power, and you get just a lot less. If you're brewing inside like me, there's minimal steam, minimal condensation. The condenser, I love them. Just if you really want to gently kind of heat the wort, you can, or if you really want to light it up and really increase flavor by just caramelizing some stuff, you can do it.
It's all controlled.
Yep, all about the control. And at the same time, there were 3 simple hop additions. So I started with Saaz, Hallertauer, and then Saaz again at the very end. And that was it. There was also the kit also came with about a pound of dextrose, which to me, I was like, this is a kind of a customized kit. And I was going to use it because that's just more alcohol.
Yeah.
So I definitely add the dextrose. I did that at about 10 minutes, and then I chucked in the Whirlfloc right after that. And then I immediately started whirlpooling, sent it through my counterflow chiller, got this guy down to pitching temp, and I used a Cellar Science Cali yeast. And this is one of my favorite strains. It's so reasonable. When you look at all the liquid yeast and how perishable it can be, and it's just transporting it and then storing it, the dry yeast is really where it's at. And that brand is just doing amazing things, and it's so affordable. This is one that's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, no, the dry yeast revolution is definitely here. We're in it finally. Olin's been talking about it for 10 years, 15 years now, and it's, I've always used dry yeast as my extra yeast I put in the butter thing on my refrigerator just as my backup, and now it's my primary and my backup.
So I fermented this guy, and I did ferment it at about 68 degrees. I fermented it under pressure, somewhere around 10 psi. I probably could have gone a little bit warmer under pressure. For me, I just figured I'd take it nice and slow.
This is a beer you don't want huge esters in, and that would be a weird, I don't think you would have got them if you went to 71, but maybe 74 or 75, you would have started to get that. And this beer has corn in it, and I know as most of us homebrewers, that's not a normal thing.
No.
And so suppressing those esters down when you have that is a nice thing. It's very smooth. You don't really get a ton of the corn character in there, but you get some. Yeah.
You have to get a little bit of that corn on the...
Corn on the cob?
Yeah, there's no corn on the cob. Is there? No.
No.
So after, I think this fermented in about 8 days, it was done, at final gravity, and it finished at 10,007, I believe, so relatively dry. At that point, cranked down my glycol chiller a little bit and set this guy to cold crash. I let it cold crash just down to 40, nothing radical. I'm not one that will go, absolutely cold in my brewing. So I let it cold crash, and it conditioned in the fermenter because I got busy for about a week and a half. And then after that, I racked it into a torpedo keg. I used a blow tie for a pressure transfer. It's just,
perfect.
It's my favorite way to do it. It's just so easy and so accessible, and you don't have foaming issues. And for me, I know when everything's under pressure, there's nothing getting in.
Yeah.
No oxygen. Hopefully all my equipment's clean and there's no bacteria in there, so it's all safe. And I think it shows in this beer, hopefully, right,
Yeah.
guys?
No, it's clear, it's clean. There's definitely no bacteria going on in here. And one of the things, I'll point out that you talked about the whole time, which I appreciate the heck out of, which is everything you did was for the most part closed, meaning your risk is so much lower. Fermenting under pressure, a lot of people want to do it because of the pressure. I could care less most of the time about the pressure itself, but I don't like the nature of normal fermentations to where the amount of bacteria that can get into a standard airlock, in my opinion, or anywhere that the air can transfer the other direction, just opens up that risk that it can come through.
And the reason I started pressure fermenting, probably at least 8 years ago at this point, was I would cool down a beer, or temperature would change, and it would suck star sand into the airlock. Sometimes it would suck them dry, and that's just a horrible feeling. You spent 5 or 6 hours, maybe 7 hours with cleaning all in to craft a beer. So pressure really, really helps that.
Well, that star sand, which I used all the time, when that gets sucked in is several days after you made the star sand, is it still effective? Is it still working properly? I then switched to vodka because then I knew it was still alcohol.
Absolutely.
But then it's like, okay, I sucked that in, and then it sat without it for a while. What happens then? So, the pressure fermentation, the pressure transfer, the sealed transfer, it's just reducing risk. And the more you can do that, especially if you have a mill in your brew house, anything like that, you're just, pretty clear beer, and there's a reason for it.
Exactly. This kit is one that I was a little kind of dubious about, but after drinking it and trying it, it's one that I encourage people to try it. It's a no-brainer to throw in your cart and just pick up and give it a shot.
Well, clearly, I'm a fan. Well, this was really fun, and I look forward to the next one. We have over 250 kits to choose from here at MoreBeer, so use this code below to save 10% off this beer.
You said everything, Chris.
Yeah, I know. I realized. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. We good?
Yeah, great.
We good? That's the end.
How do we end
We
it?
good?
Well,
What is this going to be? Yeah.